call ourselves to order. Meeting of the West Newbury Board of Selectmen. It's 7:06. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on the local cable channels and on the internet. An announcement tonight, happy and sad. Our DPW Director, Gary Bill, is retiring after a great 20 years of service to the town, and we wish him well in all his future endeavors. He'll be leaving in, I believe, September 13th. So thank you, Gary, for a lot of hard work, and especially this winter, he had a trying time.
And just a comment too, Mr. Kemper has a personal issue, so he will not be joining us tonight.
Okay, our first item is a letter from the Department of Housing and Community Development, a letter approving West Newbury's housing production plan. And this is signed by Louis Martin, the Associate Director of the Department of Housing and Community Development, dated August 21st. And basically, the housing production plan for the town has a 5-year term. It will expire on June 17th, the year 2023. And housing units affordable to low and moderate income households have been produced during one calendar year, and we will be in compliance when, of those 0.5%, 8 units a year are produced. So that's what the standard that they are setting for our town for the next 5 years. Okay. I want to thank everybody that helped get that approved. Next item is a notice from the Mass Department of Transportation. The bridges over 495 in Haverhill are going to be worked on starting relatively soon in this fall. So probably want to go on the Mass, the official website is mass.gov, I-495 Haverhill Bridge. And so people that want to see about the intersection on River Street and Route 125 connector, exit 49 and 48, they're going to be working on that probably for quite some time. So anyone that commutes that way, better check that out. It doesn't give a lot more information on time frame or what's happening with that.
I would simply note that there is a public hearing on the project on Wednesday, August 29th at 6:30 p.m. at the Haverhill City Hall.
Right. Our next item is Karen Tyler. Hi, Karen, want to come up? Karen is our veteran service officer in this district, so floor is yours.
Sure.
Can you
Karen, just bring that up close to you, that's all.
All right. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for having me. I like to check in with you guys, once a year. I'd like to say congratulations on the position.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
So it's good to have you here. So I just got a report from the state, and I thought it was a pretty good one. It's quick and dirty. You guys should have it in your packets.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the main, my main responsibility is Chapter 115 benefits, which is a local benefit, and part of your, and so it's paid 75%. So West Newbury pays 100% and then gets reimbursed by the state 75%. So there's two things inside they look at in order to qualify for the benefits. For this report, they're looking at per capita income, and they're also looking at population size. So on the first sheet here, it should have, so you can see that it's bold, where it would say that the population for the entire district is the 57,442. And you can see down that the average is 71.55. That's the number of cases, and the district has 74 cases. And then the second one is a little bit, you know.
So I'm just curious.
Sure.
What does that mean for us or not? Just like the average number of cases versus, you can't change that. It is what it is. So.
Well, it's dependent on outreach. It's also the things that you can do to change the number of cases. For instance, which I was going to point out is, so if they qualify for benefits, as a BSO, I can try to look at alternative sources of benefits for them. So, for instance, okay. So if you look at the graph that has the figures on it, that has the money, right? So you can see that for the past 2 years, 16 and 17, there's been 74 cases. But if you look at the dollar amount of the benefits that have been paid out, it's actually less last year. And the reason for that is because I've been looking at alternative sources for the veterans or surviving spouses to receive those benefits. For instance, if you go to the VA, I ask them if they have a service-connected disability. I ask them questions about their situation to see if they qualify for other benefits, for instance, from the federal government in regards to pensions and stuff. So this is just just a quick overview, just to give you guys a glimpse, a snapshot of what Chapter 115 looks like for the past, couple of years.
Okay.
What we're doing. Do you have any questions on Chapter 115?
No.
Okay. That's all I wanted to share.
Oh, that was quick.
Huh?
That was quick.
Yeah. Hey, it's a quick report, and so I figure it was just good to share with you guys so you can get an idea of, how the district's doing.
So Karen, just for people that are not here, listening at home, and just so it gets out in the media, give your contact information. Always reinforce that. So.
Sure. So my office is in Ipswich Town Hall, which is 25 Green Street. But I go out to people's houses, and I can also meet them in Town Hall in West Newbury. So basically, even though my office is in Ipswich, I can go wherever it's convenient for the veteran or the veteran's family to meet me. And I've certainly come out to West Newbury to meet with people, and they found that to be beneficial and very convenient. And then my contact number at the office is 978-356-3915.
Okay.
Great.
If people had questions about determining eligibility for this incentive, how would they contact you to determine if they're eligible?
Exactly, yeah. So if there's any veteran or veteran's family out there that has any questions, contact my office, because there's a lot of things that are available that people might not know about, and the eligibility requirements are always kind of tough to understand, and so that's why they have a veteran service officer. That's why I work for the town of West Newbury, is to help people navigate through, all that information, because it's overwhelming, and so that's what I'm here for.
Okay. All right, great.
Thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Next item is proposed funding increase for the Board of Health. There's been a, as people, if you've been listening on the news, there's been a big change in the way recycling has been accepted by China, but just all over the world too, and that's impacting all municipalities across the United States, including ours. So, gentlemen?
Good evening.
Hi.
I think as you all are aware and you just stated, we are requesting at the fall town meeting an increase to our trash budget of $50,000. And that's to cover the increase in the disposal of recycling materials.
So do you want to walk through the discussion you've had and what you've done and the questions you've asked? I assume you've had a discussion with Mello.
We have. Let me find them. There are a few questions that I think you gentlemen asked. Is there a state mandate? If so, what items are banned from the waste stream? The state regulations say that the burn plant cannot accept banned material, which includes household recycling, as well as things like hazardous waste, clean gypsum, etc.
So there's a state list, and you
There is a
basically...
state list of what they will accept and what they won't.
So in other words, we can't now put recyclable materials in the trash, even.
No, that's correct.
It will make the trash unacceptable.
That's right.
It burns hotter, which is, believe it or not,
That's bad?
It's bad.
Oh.
It doesn't do anything.
Oh, okay.
It actually hurts the burn plants.
Really?
Most of
Okay.
it is the plastic.
So it isn't an environment, it actually messes up the
It actually messes up
incinerator,
the
okay.
incinerators.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, there's a state list of what's required to be recycled, and yes, correct?
Yes, and what
And-
cannot be recycled.
Right,
Well,
right. Do we follow, or are there no options? Do we follow that 100%?
we follow it as close as we can.
Okay, I mean, we don't recycle more than,
well, this is what the whole problem arose, is that we're contaminating our recyclables.
understood?
We've been trained to recycle almost everything, so we think, but it's actually not the case at all.
Right,
You can take an entire trash can trash bag full of cans, all recyclable, but when that comes through their plant in a plastic bag, they
Right.
throw it out.
yep,
That's contaminated itself right there.
And another one of the things that does contaminate it is from everything we've been finding out, is the single stream recycling that they're doing. The only thing in the trash stream that seems to have any value is paper. And when that's mixed in with crushed glass, tin, everything else, it's not clean. It's contaminated, and that winds up in the burn plant. And my own personal opinion is we ought to start separating it out.
So, that's what I wondered, and I read the response from Mello in that, okay, I was thinking, can we go back to 10 years ago where we separate things out, and they said, no, that's not economically possible at the moment.
No.
Maybe it will be in the future, but not at the moment either.
How does the Pipe State Recycling Center come into play with this cost increase, or has no bearing?
Well, the plastics, if you go up there, there's a plastic, it's mixed plastic,
Right.
cans, just all different things.
Newspaper,
Once
metal?
It's just getting, well, newspapers we have in cardboard, we have a separate dumpster up there. But what the problem is they're taking that single stream and putting it again. And one of the largest events is the people shopping bags. You can't go to the Moolis there, but you go to the Moolis in Haverhill, and those plastic bags are not recyclable, and that's really throwing things off. One of the worst things.
Okay, but this is a problem not really of West Newbury's doing. It's a nationwide problem.
It's nationwide.
And so what did, Bob, what, if, they said 50 would, or you figured out that 50 would be something to carry us over for this fiscal year. What, did they have any idea what's going to happen next year, or what's going to happen?
They don't have any idea what's going to happen next week, let alone
Next week, okay.
Yeah.
In July, they charged us $95 a ton to get rid of the one single stream. And then this month, I think it was 87. I could have the numbers, maybe it was June's number, but the numbers came out in July. But it was 95, and then this month, I think it was 87, so it fluctuates. And we did put in the high number, hoping that that's the high number of 500 tons a year at $100 a ton. We'd like to believe we're not gonna spend all of that.
So if that's the recycling cost, just how does that compare to trash? What's that cost?
$68 a ton for trash.
And we don't have the option of not recycling because it's
Correct.
state,
No.
it's
Mandated
state,
by the
because it's state
And I
mandated.
asked Mello that, and he would actually be fined if he took it to, just for even attempting it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's a nation and probably a worldwide issue right now.
So,
It's not taking anyone's.
okay, so what alternatives have you looked at and what do they cost besides saying, okay, pay Mello an extra 50 grand to look at the costs? Have you, what,
That's pretty much it.
Zero.
don't you think if you go to town meeting with a request for 50,000, that question's gonna come up?
It probably will. If somebody out there's got a better idea of what to do with the recyclables and all the other kind of stuff, please come up and do it.
What I'd like
Well,
to-
Say so.
Bob,
But, I mean,
I'd like
we're
to-
stuck with this.
but do they look to us
Yep.
together as
What I
the,
would recommend, and I'm gonna actually say it right now, so the people who are listening, they really should go on and, on the internet, and NBC Boston did a thing back a few weeks ago, and I think we said you selected.
I saw it, yeah.
I watched it, and it was excellent, yes.
That was as informative, I hate to say it, as you're gonna get.
And it didn't make you feel good.
It's
No.
not good, and it's gonna get worse until it's under control. But we have to re-educate our people how to recycle, and I think it took us probably 20 years to educate them to recycle.
Just personally, when I saw the single stream, I said, I don't think this is gonna be a good idea, and
No?
I spent some time in Germany when I was with the National Guard, and they do a fantastic job over there. Each small town, hamlet, or whatever, has paper, plastic, glass, tin, all in separate bins. You know, I mean, we can put a man on the moon. We can go up and repair a telescope out in space, and we can't figure out what to do with our own trash.
okay, so it doesn't affect things, but, okay, so what is Mello doing with the stuff that there is no market for now? What are they doing with those tons of glass or whatever?
Down to East,
I forget where he said it
I think it
went.
was like East Boston, and it's basically one of the only. See what the problem is years ago, and I'm not going to get lengthy, okay? Years ago, they just used to take it down. It was, single streamed out like you saw in that picked apart and stuff like that. But now, the acceptable rate is like less than 1% that can't be polluted.
Contaminated, right.
Contaminated, I keep saying polluted. And essentially, it's not acceptable to anyone, so we have to pay them to take out paper.
But what do they do with it?
Right now, it's stockpiled.
It's stockpiled.
Oh.
Which is amazing. And I mean, it definitely didn't, Mr. Anderson didn't want to deter you. I mean, we don't have a solution right now. We are checking in there with Mellows. Every town in the country.
Every town in this country is doing the same thing.
I mean, for instance, San Diego last year brought in $4 million in revenue for recycling. This year they had to spend $1.1 million to get rid of it. So it's a problem for us because numbers are still big, but my point is it's everywhere and it's costing every American.
So the one thing, if you watch the video, the one recommendation is, and we've all heard it before, but try to buy things in bulk. Instead of 7 containers, one big one, maybe go to Sam's or whatever, get a giant one.
And re-educate.
And whatever you do, try not to take an extra layer of packaging on it.
So.
That's really all we can do at the moment, yeah,
Unfortunate.
yeah.
Unfortunately, our hands are tied at this point. I mean, it's just, there isn't much we can do.
Okay, I'm not sure just going to town meeting and saying we don't have any alternatives is necessarily the.
All people have to do is watch the news and read the
Bob,
newspapers.
I understand what's happening. I don't shoot the messenger.
I don't have an answer either.
So, Angus, would you have any ideas?
Sure. So the context for this discussion is basically the existing contract between Mello and the Board of Health. And that contract provides that in the event that unforeseen expenses arise in the collection of the town's solid waste and recyclables, e.g. inflated fuel costs, above average population increases, the town agrees to negotiate in good faith necessary price increases to offset such expenses to the contractor. So what we have right now is a contract that's been in effect since FY15 with a date that's valid through FY20, so June 30th, 2020. So right now, the parties are negotiating in good faith, and I believe that's the spirit of what the Board of Health has brought forward. If that was to be brought to town meeting, and town meeting did not appropriate the funds, I don't predict what would happen, but what could happen is the contractor could void the contract with 10 days' notice, just as the town has that same option under the way the contract is written. That would be, I don't want to think how we could move that quickly, but basically that's the context for what's going on. In a meeting last Tuesday with the Board of Health, where the contractor was, or the vendor was present, he did represent that and documented that the proposed cost increase is a direct pass-through cost that the vendor experiences. It's not marked up in any way, and he made a commitment to ensure that future invoices break out the cost clearly. So I think that's, just in terms of voters can be assured that the cost is a true cost. It's not something where the vendor is, ratcheting up what's already an increased cost. Whether that's, ultimately it's up to town meeting. The contract is a valid contract, and if the funding is not approved, the Board of Health can say this is the amount, and then it's up to the vendor what they do or don't do. But I think that's the situation. As I think the board is aware, there is, this is an issue throughout the region and the country. There is regional procurement effort that the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission has put out initial feelers about. I did speak with the director up there to find out more about that. That's not something that's going to move anywhere near as quickly as the next couple of months. I would say that when the time comes, I would recommend that we provide our specifications to MVPC, so when they solicit pricing, we would get pricing. But the driving force behind that is the City of Lawrence, which needs to be under contract with a new hauling disposal contract by October of 2019. So that's,
When's ours?
ours is good through June of 2020.
Okay, 20.
So while I think there would be no downside in seeing what the market bears or what the market can offer, my take on the current situation is that the incremental cost that's being proposed is a direct pass-through and is clearly a function of sea change in the market as opposed to any kind of anything other than that. I'll just leave it there. So, but it's a really tough situation, and there's a real learning curve with town meeting, and I think whatever happens, we need to be prepared for either outcome, whether it's approved or not approved.
Well, and just as we probably should think about alternatives with vendors, as Angus just said, alternatives for how we potentially, if we were to put an article on town meeting, how we would fund that, because this is an ongoing cost, so it's not just 50,000 appropriated.
No, it's not this year. It's continuous.
I'm sorry?
I said it's not just this year. It's going to be continuous.
Yeah, so it's not an appropriation of $50,000 from free cash, it's on the tax rate. So 50,000 is a pretty big amount to increase taxes by.
Well, no, but next year's budget, it can be budgeted in for fiscal 20.
It can be budgeted in fiscal 19 also. with an article.
Okay, why would you want to do that?
Because it's an ongoing cost.
Can I ask one question?
Well, can I finish my, yes, let me just finish. I'm just trying to get us to think, just not say, we want $50,000 from free cash to pay Mellow, just broader. That's all I'm trying to do. So, and I know people will react negatively to this, and I'm just throwing out options, but some towns have pay-as-you-throw options too. And then the people that are using the service are paying for the incremental cost. Just another option. So, not saying it's a good one, but it's out there.
I thought I heard through discussion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. McCarron, that if something is mandated on us, that the state mandates on us,
Yeah,
we ask the state to participate in helping us fund it? Am I correct in saying that? You are. It's another option.
Yep.
Looking for options.
No, that's true.
And you know what?
But every 351 cities and towns
I hate
will
to
be
tell-
jumping on
I
that.
hate to tell you,
Yeah.
but if you're, I think it's what you might want to call a little hidden secret, because there already is towns out there that have already done it. That are exempt from it.
Really?
Am I, did you, I
That's,
lost it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd like to know about that.
Towns, I gave you the names.
So,
I don't know how I can't tell you how they became exempt.
so what are you saying, Blake?
What I'm saying at first is that
It's an
the state
unfunded,
mandates
it's an
us to do-
it's an unfunded mandate.
Okay? I think the little secret of that is possibly getting out, and other towns have already started that, and they are exempt from recycling. Somehow they don't have to recycle, and I'll get you the stuff on that.
That's not the mandate.
No, I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
saying
two-
maybe that's
those-
the part that, the state could have said this is too much cost to bear for us, and I gave them an exemption. I don't know exactly how or why.
We should check it out. I mean, we should check out everything.
Yeah.
50,000's a lot, so that's why.
It's a lot of money. And once again, we're saying it's a high number, and that doesn't matter, because even if it's 40, we understand it's a high number.
Okay. You have any other questions?
No. So,
Do you, any other?
is the plan to put an article forward for this? Yeah,
That's what we'd like to
Well,
do.
that would be our decision.
right.
What were you saying?
That was exactly what I was just going to say. I think the next step for this board would be at the next meeting on September 4th, which is the night the warrant closes, to have a draft article before you, which could then be put on the warrant. I would ask a related question, that pay-as-you-throw option. I understand that is a very contentious issue. I don't know West Newbury, but in every town I've ever known.
Yeah, I'm not advocating it
Well,
here.
well, I guess my question is there any,
Oh, that's been a very contentious,
is there any interest in putting something to, do you think the town would want to study an alternative that would put those costs more directly on the users of that service as opposed to the tax base?
What would that be?
What do you mean, what would that be?
What's an example, like, okay.
Well, like a do you think the public, in light of a cost increase, would want to look at alternative funding strategies such as that?
I don't
Or
see
do you
why
think-
having an alternative isn't a good idea, yeah.
Well, the reason I ask is because to look into that would be a major, big public initiative, taking a lot of time and resources, so it's not something to initiate unless there's a will out there to do that. But if town meeting says, hey, we'll support this, for FY19, but we really want the town to look at other funding strategies, that might be something to
Just
take
as
advantage
a,
of the
just
audience
as
at
a
town meeting and ask them that.
point of, someplace we could check out, Rockport did it literally this spring.
Pay-as-you-throw?
They went from, they don't have pickup, they have a transfer station, but you could bring unlimited to the transfer station, and now nothing. You can't bring you have a wastebasket you want to throw away. You got to put it in the official bag to throw away the wastebasket. But the first month or two, the pushback was there, and now you look in the, and this is just, it didn't happen 10 years ago. They changed completely just this spring, so they instituted it.
Now, did they create a new transfer station? Is that what?
No, they've had a transfer station, but you couldn't, but now you have to, anything you throw in the dumpster has to be in the official bag.
Okay, no, I was just curious if they built a new, transfer
No,
station.
that all stayed the same, but like I say, even a really large item, you gotta get the big bag and put it in there.
The town of Raleigh announced a week or two ago that this is not a final decision, but they're likely to close their recycling center at the end of the year, so there are other alternatives. So, I mean, what does it cost, what does Pipe Stave cost us? I don't know.
To man?
To man and
Zero.
well, no, well, I'm sure there's a charge from Mello to pick the stuff up.
That's incorporated, it's free, because when recycling had a market, they essentially picked it up for nothing, and probably kept the tipping fee back then, which is still minimal, which covered their cost for trucking.
Joe, how would that affect, how would that affect the,
Raleigh is,
I mean, what's taken up at Pipe Stave is probably 1% of what we collect.
Well,
Town-wide, right?
The differences with Raleigh and West Newbury is that they have full-time employment from, I forget the name of the hauler there, because it was just in the paper.
JRM.
JRM is that what it was? They have full-time employees there, where we have Fred. I don't know
Right.
if you all know Fred. We give him $11 an hour for 4 hours, and I shouldn't have said that on TV, but he has.
It's public record.
He has minimum wage, so I shouldn't have, you know what I mean? So they're
yeah,
really.
they're saving a whole bunch of money, and
Right,
but how Blake is saying,
$40,000, I think, wasn't it? Was the outcome?
it rises.
No, but then where is their stuff going?
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, here's the article.
it's.
No, but I understand, but, okay, think of this, here's the situation. If you can't throw that milk carton in the regular trash, and they stopped recycling, where is that milk carton going?
You know, if this, let me just, I'll end it at this, I wouldn't, more. The only way we're gonna beat this is, it's called education.
Well, that's a
That
good
is
point.
That is, it's gonna take us years to make people rethink again, okay? But it took us probably 20 years to get to this point. It's the only way it's gonna go away, because trash is with us for the rest of our life, and recycling is. And
Right.
We can go to waste management, we can go to Mellows, the cost is gonna occur there, pay as you throw, all options, it's gonna be a cost. It's costly, unfortunately. So we have to retrain. We put articles on our website. I was asked to ask you this evening, because apparently when we put certain things on the website, we like to ask the permission of the selectmen about that video, that 7-minute video. We can post that on our website.
Yeah, Mary can post it.
Is that, we were,
There's a town website.
yes, but it's the town website, but on our division.
On your page.
Yes,
Yeah, you can put it on your page.
But we were told if we put something out of the unusual, we should get permission from you people. I'm just telling you what Ms. Grafton told me to ask. Okay, no, it is what it is, so you have no problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, Mary can help her.
Yes, the 7-minute video on the.
Put it on the Board of Health page, and she can also send out an announcement, so it'll go out to hundreds of people, and if they want to watch it, they can.
The point is, we can't change the world situation. We're this.
Right.
Yeah,
I do,
I can make it smaller.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a follow-up question on
Okay.
the pipe stave question. So if I'm reading these numbers correctly, the FY18, there were just short of 400 tons of recycling? Is that the right?
Yeah.
And for curbside pickup, and there were about 135 tons from pipe stave. So my question is, hypothetically, let's say pipe stave was closed, do you think that 135 tons would simply be curbside, or do you think there's things going to pipe stave?
There's multiple things to address that.
That's a good question,
But
yeah.
some of the stuff, like we had in President, people would dump TVs up there, they're not recyclable, blah, 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 but you know what, they're not in ash swamp. So my point being is it's a great place, and part of that tonnage, and a huge part of that tonnage is the metal, which is a separate item up there. You understand what I mean? Metal
Yeah.
takes up weight. So. in
Could
total,
we keep the metal and do away with the recycling up there?
I think for paying what I said, we pay a week to man someone there for 4 hours and help keep it cleaner is a small price to pay.
No, I don't think that's an
I think
issue.
we should
Well,
be-
are we getting people from, do we know that people from out of town are dumping there? I guess that's what I was driving
We have
at.
some, we have some evidence. We have cameras up there. We have people who dumped elk meat up there. We've had people who have taken literally toilets and thrown it right in. I think I showed you that last week, didn't I? I mean, I think it saves us. I do because I think it keeps it out of the streets too. It
Okay,
helps. I'm
so
sorry.
it's a trade-off.
It really doesn't cost us that much.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
$1's a dollar. I understand that, but.
Okay. You have anything else?
I would recommend that we put that the Board of Selectmen put it on the warrant, reserving what position you may take on it, but it definitely needs to go to the voters, in my opinion.
I would agree.
Agree. Thanks,
You all
guys.
set? Thank you.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Next item is the Riding and Driving Club.
I don't think there's a representative here.
Yeah.
Are there any issues or questions with this?
No, it was looked at by both the fire chief and police chief. They didn't have any issues with it.
I'm sorry, Mary, I couldn't hear that.
This was looked at by the police and fire
Okay.
chief, and there's no issues with it. It's their annual event.
Do you, any?
No, I was fine.
I move to approve.
Except that there are no signatures, but with the caveat that those are done.
Okay. I move to approve the West Newbury Riding and Driving Club application for September 9th.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Update on the school building committee selection of preferred design for the high school project. I assume Mr. Kemper, who is on the building committee, was going to talk about that.
Did you want to talk about it? Sure. You have to use the microphone.
Okay.
How's
Hi.
everybody doing this?
Hi.
Glad to meet you.
Very much my pleasure. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So the update from the building committee and the school committee at our last meeting, the joint meeting, both committees selected what was called the courtyard option. As you know, they were presented with a whole bunch of options. That was the one that, from the feedback we got from the community, both at the meeting and we put online surveys, that's the one that they had selected. So on September 11th, we will submit, the building committee will submit, with the approval of the school committee, a packet that will go to the MSBA, who's helping fund the project, so to formally submit that as our option that we'll move forward with. Of course, in terms of towns, that next comes up in April for a town hall meeting, then goes on the ballot if it's approved. So that's the update on the building.
So-
Any questions?
Excellent choice. I mean, I know we've all gone to the meetings and seen the options, and I think it makes the most sense from a layout in the building and flow through and all the other things that you talked about. You know what my concern is? My biggest concern, and I know you've said, I've heard you say this more than once, that the school committee, superintendent, apolitical. How are you going to get this to pass at town meeting and the polls in all three towns? That's 6 votes.
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest ways you get it to pass, or you look at it, is just, it truly is the education of what is the impact of having this building?
Mhm.
What impact does that have on the children? What impact does it have on the real estate in your localities? And the other option is, if it does not pass, what impact, same question, what impact does that have on your community? What impact does that have?
Right.
I think that's a very good point. Like, I hadn't thought of it that way. How do the communities look to people, potential people to move to the communities if it doesn't pass?
Right, and that's, I mean, the big part of it is, if you ask me as the superintendent, from an educational standpoint, this is a no-brainer. So
Oh, absolutely.
It does come down to dollars and cents.
So let's just say all three communities, it's $1,000 for the average taxpayer, more or less, whatever. And you've got an older retired couple that they're on a fixed income. That's where I think you're going to have the biggest challenge.
Sure, I would agree with that. I mean, so there's people who are going to have to vote with what they can do. I think on that average cost, depending on where they live, if they live in a place where that's divided, if that gets assessed to a building, and there's a bunch of units in that building, they would not be assessed at 1,000, but certainly that building.
Yeah, but it's the average, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Fixed income, those are the folks who, that would certainly
Yeah,
be.
that's a pretty tough nut for them.
Sure. And that's going to be, and likewise, if it does not go through, it's going to be a burden at some point for some generation, one way or the other,
Oh, yeah.
would be my guess.
I had one procedural question. So now it goes to the MSBA. Did they ever say, oh, we don't like you, we agree with your grade configuration or whatever, but we don't like your design? Do they ever say that, and then you have to rework things or not? I don't know.
Sure, that'd be a question probably for the architect, but what has happened already in this process, Mr. Kemper may have told you this already, but we had submitted initially, I think it was 4 options, and they wanted to see more options in the 912 rather than just the 712. We had one option in 912 and 3 options in the 712, and they wanted additional options in 912 just to make sure that we completely vetted the options with the stakeholders. So yeah, they certainly do have some say in it. I do know from an architectural standpoint, there are some pieces that they simply will not reimburse. That's why we've been using that 40% reimbursement rate.
Right.
We know it's going to be 50% because there's some pieces, like an auditorium, that only pay for a certain square footage, and once you go beyond that, that's going to be locally, we'd incur that cost.
Have you thought, I know one of the questions that a few different people have asked, and I don't have a position on this myself, but the district office cost?
Yeah, we talk about that quite a bit. I think I made this comment in one place. If you put me under a 10, as long as I had Wi-Fi, I think I could operate. So I don't think we are, it makes sense from the standpoint of you're in between the largest number of students that are in your school district in those 2 buildings. Certainly when you're looking at affordability in those big numbers, we're going to do whatever we can to do what's in the best interest of the children. If that means we have to disperse to somewhere else, then that's what we'll do. We don't know where that will be. Certainly, I think over the course of the next several months, that's something that will be thoroughly investigated.
I can't remember how, suppose the new building with, is there some reason the part of the existing middle school where the district offices are, is there some reason that couldn't be maintained?
So I think that's one of the questions that comes up when we start looking at the demolition of the buildings. What gets demolished first? Obviously, the high school ends up being the first thing because you have to finish out one of the phases if that goes through, and then the middle school would follow. So I think there's a lot of options and things that need to be discussed. It seems to me, and again, I've only been here for a month, but it seems to me the biggest issue is not necessarily the structure itself, it's the infrastructure of that building. And as those infrastructure pieces fail, it becomes more and more costly. So I'm not familiar with what that infrastructure is for that part of the building and what the cost might be. But yeah, certainly, to answer your question, yes, I think we have spoken. I think that question came about several times. It came at a meeting, I answered, we'll go anywhere. I mean, this, for me, is much more about, always will be all about the children.
I just personally, that was one of the things that, like, it seems like something, if someone wanted to be negative about things, we could really target that, yes.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. If that's a make or break when it comes to it. And I think that cost that they have associated with it is $4.3 million, I think.
Right.
kind of curious to see.
On a square foot basis, it's high, yeah.
So I'm very curious to see, because I was also told that that might actually be part of the outside fields, part of a field house, but without knowing for certain, without seeing the specific details of that design, we won't know, but that'll come to fruition.
Okay.
There's the second part of that as well.
Right.
The parcel?
Yeah, so we want to talk about there's a possible availability of a piece of land that presently is surrounded by the Pentucket District, West Newbury household, and perhaps it's available for purchase.
Yeah, so that has come up in the past. Historically, that's been a parcel that the school district has looked at. If you look at an aerial map, you'll see there's that field that has the uprights, and there's a huge field that's always been to the right of that. And in between is this parcel. When I came here within the first week, I was talking to one of the owners, and they are interested in potentially selling it to the school district. So at a recent meeting we met, the school committee did give approval for me to pursue possible acquisition of the property. Of course, we submitted to the town, because it is town property, notification that we were possibly looking at this, because that's obviously property that creates tax revenue, and it does not incur any debt. It was the decision that came, and we have our attorney looking at the decision right now to make sure that that was the appropriate decision.
Mr. McCarron, do you want to comment on that?
No, it's just, the statute is a little bit odd in the sense that it says that you need a 2/3 vote of a town meeting when a school acquires a property in that town, regional school, when it incurs debt. That was a change to the statute in 1978, I believe. And the second part of it seems to expressly limit it to only the circumstance when you incur debt. Well, there's no debt here.
Well, I don't know why that's different, but that's...
Yeah, it's a little bit strange. The only reason I would, and my comment too is that, well, if you're going to incur debt, you're going to need a majority vote anyways. So maybe they wanted the supermajority vote in the town, but they certainly left it as...
Who knows? Okay.
Is what it is. Yeah.
So in a nutshell, there doesn't seem to be any reason for us to have, if the school committee decided to pursue that, there doesn't seem to be a reason that we have to have an article for that on town meeting.
I think that's the understanding that we have, and we're just getting confirmed with our attorney.
Jennifer?
I'm just foggy on it. Why is it that you would need any debt? What's the...
So the
Because they were going to purchase it with cash rather than, there's no debt.
So that,
Thank you.
What's that?
I was trying to say what her question was before you answered it.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much, I appreciate it. And just
So,
before, if you guys ever
it's-
need anything, just-
Welcome. Thank you.
And Superintendent, if your legal review does come to a different conclusion, as I believe I've advised you, the warrant closes September 4th.
I'll get that back to you.
Great, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Thanks
Thank
for coming
you.
in.
Our next item is a review of the new, the design of the new LEDs, public safety sign. Chief?
I know we have the chief on now. Are you guys here for a specific,
It was our understanding that we might be discussing the qualifications for the next superintendent of streets tonight.
the what?
For the next superintendent of streets, yeah, he's retiring. It was our understanding that you guys were going to discuss what was going to be needed for the job.
No.
That's what we were understood that it was.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's not on the agenda.
Well, just, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. So there was executive session where there was a review of a draft job description, and that will be issued. And the revisions, I believe, were fully reflective of what I heard in various conversations. So I'll make that available to you all. But yeah, that wasn't a public session, so if I conveyed that. Okay, I apologize for that if that was my communication.
When will that be available to the public?
We're gonna post the job tomorrow. Yeah.
Sorry, Art.
And I did provide a copy of the red line to Gary, so he may be able to share that before I can get it to you.
All right, awesome.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Can I make a comment on the recycling?
Yeah.
Comment
just
away.
I'm sorry.
Comment away.
Well, not that it's not my idea, but I just happened to read an article on Sunday that there's a town in New Hampshire, New London, New Hampshire, and obviously they're going through the same problem. What they're doing, they're actually crushing the glass and they're using it as a substrate to paving or concrete or putting down paths. So that's, and obviously, I'm sure most people, if they remember back from high school, glass comes from sand. And actually the glass, once it's ground up, according to the article, like sand, it's even more porous than what I guess contractors use as substrate, either under paving or under concrete or things like that. So just, when you were asking about other ideas, I just happened to read an article. It was on a Sunday paper, and I think the town was New London, New Hampshire, and there were, I think it said 3, 4, or 5 towns kind of all worked together. So
My comment to that would be that that's a good idea, and I knew of a company that did that, but the Mass Department of Environmental something, what was it, department, basically determined that was hazardous waste and made them tear it all up.
That's not good.
Tear up the street?
No, it wasn't a street, it was their own parking lot.
Oh.
Yeah.
And what they had done is they had crushed the glass and they had mixed it with the asphalt, and it was just part of, it's all you say sand. But DEP said, oh no, that's hazardous waste, you
That's
can't do
too
that.
bad, because like, sometimes there's like a little bit of raspberry jam and stuff in there, and it would smell nice, too.
well, I can see as times become more critical of trying to dispose of recyclable glass, I have a feeling that they're probably going to change their point on that. Because obviously glass is sand.
It is. It's
Yeah.
heated up silica.
So anyways, that was something that I had read, I figured I'd just throw out to you. Anyways, back to why I'm here.
Thanks.
The sign, it's projected sometime next month, hopefully barring any other foreseen problems with the company installing it, they'll be here. But I guess between now and then, some decision has to be made about the concrete sign that's out there now, because that's about going to be the same location as where the new sign will be. So just looking for ideas where the board would like, I'm assuming we're not going to recycle the granite. We're going to want to put it someplace else because it is obviously part of the community. So I guess 2 ideas that have come up. One is maybe put it closer to the front door because it does have the town seal on it, or maybe even better, the access way off of Bachelor Road, maybe put it down there at the corner. I'd hate to see it just stockpiled somewhere where it would just sit there for eternity.
We'll have to, I don't know if you have any ideas on that.
No, I don't.
I think we'd want to kind of ponder that a bit. You know, maybe we can use the yes on everything you just said, and then just in the spirit of thinking of, you know, different alternatives, maybe we could use the granite for some other sign, and it says West Newbury Public Safety. That could be like on the building or something, or whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, there was just a couple ideas that were kicked around, but
Okay. Yeah,
obviously it's coming faster. I mean, obviously the #1 goal was back in May, and obviously that's been put off, but the last time Sergeant Cena and I spoke with the company, they said probably by September, probably middle to late September, they'll be here. So we just wanted to have a plan, some type of plan before they got here.
Yep, we need to.
So, all right.
Thank you. That's it?
Next one is you two.
Oh, okay.
Next three. Are you
Next
two?
3, yeah. Okay, so the your thoughts on this, Chief, were that the cruiser that's being turned in, you can do better with a trade-in than selling it, and it's because it's got some serious mechanical problems.
It has some serious issues. I'm afraid that if they drive it back, it's going to be on the highway and it's going to have to get towed back, and then it's going to be worth less. And I was told that when they drained the transfer case, there were shards of metal. That's obviously indicative that something's grinding away. I had it checked by 2 different people, and pretty much both of them said the same thing. It's on a short shelf life. The company offered $2,500 for the vehicle. If there were no issues with it, it would probably be worth as much as the last sedan that we got rid of. But I mean, whoever buys it will have to put probably $2,000 to $3,000 into it, and then at that point, the car would probably be worth between $4,000 and $5,000. But I see it would be a monumental waste of money to fix it just to,
For us, yes.
sell it.
Yeah, totally.
So how do you propose we dispose?
I guess I'm proposing that the company that said that they'll give us $2,500, lock, stock, and barrel, they'll just take it and then they'll take it off.
Who is that?
It's a Plymouth dealership, which is where I'm buying the next car from.
I would.
Angus?
I support the chief's recommendation.
Okay, so
You want to make a motion?
I move to dispose of the former police vehicle 301, trading it into,
It's I think it's CMS out of Plymouth, or CMR. I'd have to get the exact title.
CMS.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the next
Newbury.
item was a memorandum of understanding, it's hard to say that, between the town and West Newbury related to the somewhat ill-defined border between the 2 municipalities over by the reservoir. Okay.
Yes.
So has this been an issue, Chief, or what?
Well, I guess everybody, including Newburyport and us, for decades always thought the boundaries were someplace different, and I think it just perpetuated itself over the years of passing down from one generation of law enforcement to the other. And highway, everybody thought it was where the new pavement began and ended, which was totally erroneous. Where the new pavement starts or ends is actually quite a bit of ways into Newburyport. And this all came to light probably about 4 to 6 weeks ago in a case that we had stemming out of a serious DWI, and it went through trial, and that was kind of the glitch in it, that where everybody thought the boundaries wasn't even anywhere close. So I did a lot of research through the assessor's office and Google, and
It's not clear. They're not clear.
No, I mean, one boundary I found is, the 2 lots that are for sale out by the reservoir. Right. Well, it kind of starts along the shoulder of the road, and then it kind of infringes on the road. It cuts the road in half. It goes right up the middle, right up to what we call the turnaround where the trash can is, and it goes right out into the middle of the reservoir. So what the marshal for Newburyport and I thought is, in that area, from just beyond, which would be north of that turnaround, to just north of where the Quaker Cemetery is kind of no man's land. So what we're proposing is that either agency can act out there to do what we have to do, and then if there's any doubt, I would call Newburyport and say, hey, this is what we have out there.
So
Would this be, I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
You're just talking about that area?
That one area.
Oh.
I mean, there are other areas, obviously. Some people think the boundary on the Rocks Village Bridge is, if you could ask 10 people, they'll give you 10 different places where they think the line is out there. But this all came up, the one out there, all came up from a DWI case, so I'm trying to take care of that one right now. I have a similar agreement with the chief of Groveland, because as you probably know, part of the middle school, 60% is in Groveland and 40% is in, it might not be exactly 60-40, But I've entered into an agreement with that chief that if something happens during the day, that we would be the first ones to respond, and then obviously include him after the fact. So we're just trying to make it easier for both sides of us that might come upon something that we don't have to, no, it's in your town, no, it's in my town, and get into that struggle. So this is just more something to make it a little bit easier on both police departments.
Okay.
It seems reasonable to me. My only question was, is this strictly motor vehicle incidents, or
Anything.
would this be a fugitive, or could be anything?
It could be anything.
Okay.
So,
Question for Mr. McCarron. So, whose authority from the town side, who should be who is approving this? Who's approving this, I guess, is the
Be
question.
the Board of Selectmen.
So,
I'm sure that it's, what was it, 40G said with the Board of Selectmen, yeah.
so there's Angus's signatures on it, so I
Well,
guess,
it's actually the town manager with the approval of the Board of
I
Selectmen.
was gonna say, I guess we could make make that part of the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we-
Just
yeah.
approving the town manager, sorry.
Yeah, we could add duly authorized or something.
We can
or-
just make it part of the motion.
Yep.
So you're all right? Go for it. So I move to approve the memo of the understanding with the City of Newburyport and the Town of West Newbury Police Departments, and authorize the town manager to sign on behalf of the town.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item is also a police-related matter. Proposed changes to the job description for police corporal. Chief, I guess this is my negligence. Is this, were these created out of whole cloth, or are these something that the town had before and you tweaked them, or what do we got here?
Well, originally, I think back, I'm going to take a guess, 1992, Chief John Dennis had created a lot of the different positions. And pre-me, there was a corporal position, and there was a job description. That was pretty outdated, so basically I added to the description. So it's quite lengthy, it covers just about everything. I kind of flew it up the flagpole to other chiefs to see if I might have missed anything or should not put stuff in, and kind of hit the mark, I was told. Because once the board approves it, then probably the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start working further. The process is already under. I'm working with a private contractor that's actually going to administer the written tests, the oral board, and the assessment center. But before I wanted to put anything out in writing as a job posting or promotion, I wanted to make sure that I had the job description down.
What would you say is the major change between someone doing this and someone being a patrolman? What would you say the major difference is?
Probably the biggest difference that's going to have to be is obviously job knowledge. There could be equal people, maybe time, say someone that has 2 people that have 3 years on. But I think what the process is going to be looking at is overall knowledge of what the job is probably the first step. The second is, obviously, we're looking for our future leaders within the police department. And obviously, if you already have a corporal or corporals already appointed and working, if there was a vacancy in a sergeant's position, then they're already halfway there. Obviously, it's mentoring, obviously, the people below you, preparing them for the next leg of their career and their journey. So instead of trying to promote, say someone retires as a sergeant, and you're trying to find someone in-house to fill that position straight from a patrol officer, yes, that could happen, but at least if you have one corporal or 2 corporals, or how many corporals you have, at least they've carried some of those responsibilities and understand what the position is going to be like. Obviously, the supervision of fellow officers, whether it's just patrol officers or reserve officers, or carrying on some administrative tasks. So I'm trying to get the sergeants, obviously, to mentor the people below them to get ready for that next generation that's obviously coming. So no different than how I try to mentor the 2 sergeants to be better at that. So when it comes time for me to retire, instead of going outside, hopefully you might have at least 1 or 2 people inside. So I'm just trying to invest in the people that we have with us today. So hopefully it will serve us well.
Give them new responsibility, help them learn, get them exposed to, first level managerial.
First level management, obviously there'll be schools that I'll send to them, not obviously all at once, but obviously over a period of years, they'll be sent to a number of different schools, supervisors every schools, because they're the future leaders, and their responsibility will be train the patrol officers and the reserve officers that are our next future leaders that we're trying to obviously get them on.
So would this be, I'm just playing devil's advocate, would this be taking somebody out of active policing to do administrative work when we actually want more people actually policing on the street? Just, I know the answer, but I'm just here. Okay.
You just want me to say it?
Yeah.
Okay, no.
Okay.
I mean, yes, there are times, no difference than there is now, that every officer has his administrative work or paperwork time, but I'm not looking to pull anybody off the street. That'd be crazy. If anything, I need people on the street, not off the street.
Well, the 2 sergeants only, they work 4 days on and 2 days off, so, there's a gap that there's not a quote-unquote supervisor on.
Correct. And
duty, and also on the overnight shift, too.
Right. That's obviously the other thing, is to get more supervision when there's not.
Related to that, will this make, will this put any crimp in terms of flexibility of scheduling, or no?
I don't think so. I mean, I've spoken quite lengthy over the last year with the 2 sergeants, and they both agree that I'm not going to have a corporal and a sergeant working all the same days together, because I'd be misusing, obviously, my manpower. Are there days or weeks that could happen? Yes, depending on how vacations fall on sick time. But my goal is to say the 2 days that Sergeant Durant is off during the week, then whatever those 2 days are, there's going to be a corporal working as well. And the same thing with Sergeant Cena. When his 2 days off fall, then the corporal will be at least working those 2 days amongst other 2 days. So it won't be a perfect system, because with what we have, it can't be, but it will certainly be better. There will be more supervision and more things hopefully getting done.
Okay. Is this something we have to approve, or?
Town council has advised that the chief, under the statute, does have the authority to enact policies such as job descriptions, but that it would, if he did that, 30 days has to pass with the board not acting. Right. So in order for this to take immediate effect, the endorsement of the board is requested.
It does say subject to the board approval, or inaction is approval. Yeah, basically, kind of what you just said. Okay, so I move to approve the revised corporal job description for the West Newbury Police Department.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that's all that's on my list.
Yep. You are
done.
All done.
Thank you.
Our next item is an agreement with the town of Salisbury related to the common pump-out boat. We have a contract signed by the Salisbury Board of Selectmen, and this would be in effect for, let's see, through, if we sign this one, this would be in effect through this fiscal year and the next fiscal year after that, starting in July 2019 on the second year.
So it goes through June 30th, 2020?
It doesn't say that, but it says the second year starts on July 1st, 2019, so yes.
I do think that another vote will be required to,
Fund it,
to carry it through FY '20.
to fund it.
Yeah.
I had a question. We tried to look this up right before the meeting, and we weren't able to find it. We were trying to find last year's contract.
I've got it.
You've got it?
Yep.
Okay. Is the total,
Is the money the same?
was it 6,000 or 4,000? Because I'm thinking it was 4.
It was 4.
Okay. And so they have up their charges by 50%, and I'd like to know how many times did the pump out boat actually go up the river to West Newbury, and how many pump outs did we actually get?
We did get that information, and if you'd like to table this matter, I could put it into the next packet. I do have it, it's just not before you.
I would like to
I agree, too.
table that. Do you agree, Joe?
I agree.
Okay.
All right.
And we're near the end of the season, so I don't think it's going to make too much difference if we wait another 2 weeks, yeah. Disposition of low-value items.
I would request that this be passed over.
Okay. Update on the stormwater management working group.
All right, just to make you aware, as you know, we are a regulated MS4 community, and the scope of the our requirements are within the shaded area on the map in your packet. That's what is defined as our so-called urbanized area, which is a term of art. I don't think it would be described that way in dictionary terms, but under the requirements of this program, that's the so-called urbanized area. So we've known this is coming for a while. There's a notice of intent due on October 1st, and we've got the assistance of Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, and we've had a couple of meetings at the staff level. We've got kind of a stormwater working group comprised of myself, the Public Works Director, the Town Planner, the Conservation Agent, and the Health Agent. And so with the 5 of us, I think we've got a lot of kind of subject matter expertise, and we're glad to have the assistance of Merrimack Valley because they're helping us prepare the NOI. So I basically wanted to put this on the agenda just to let you know this is part of our work plan. Once the stormwater management plan is approved, which needs to be by the end of this fiscal year, that then sets out each year there's required steps we need to take and document and report on. So it's a major part of, it's a major mandate. It takes a lot of time.
Other than the obviously the reporting requirements, just looking at it, does it seem like this is a major undertaking? It seems like these are a lot of things that we kind of do anyway. Would you say that or no?
It's going to depend on what's required. We don't know, but for example, a major focus of the permit is to map your outfalls, anything that connects to a so-called water of the U.S. So that would obviously be the Merrimack River, but also any wetlands or stream that is connected to the river. And one thing that may well come into become part of a requirement is testing of water quality at the outfall.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so that's an example of something that's not done right now. And if that's done, and if you find issues, you then basically trace it upstream until you pinpoint where those pollutants are coming from. So it's it has implications for things like frequency of street sweeping, frequency of catch basin cleaning. So there's some operational impacts that I don't yet know the details to how much those differ from what we would do.
That's what I mean.
Anyway,
yeah.
But I can tell you from prior towns I've worked in, the impact can be very significant.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean it will be here. We have a lot less stormwater infrastructure here than I've seen elsewhere, so.
Okay, thank you.
So you can look for continued updates on this, including as we get closer to filing the NOI.
Next item is update from the Pipe Safe Parking, Circulation, and Land Use Advisory Committee. And so I was the Board of Selectmen representative on that. We had a meeting this afternoon. We made a couple of, the board made a couple of decisions. One of them to prepare, as within the realm of possibility, it may be difficult, but to try, we'll say, to attempt to prepare a presentation for Thursday's CPC meeting to request funding to have a separate parking resolution of the pipe safe area, independent of the Park and Rec's additional presentation to CPC to their land use on the Dunn property. So they voted to not tie those two together, to have the parking issue on pipe stave a completely separate item.
That's a good idea.
The committee looked at, discussed several possible plans for the resolution, basically of the parking issue being that there is on weekends a lot of crowding. Sometimes the parking is a little irregular. We want to keep it safe. Sometimes the parking is so crowded that it impedes use of the equestrian fields. There's some concern that there's a lot of, because of the large number of automobiles, sometimes as many as 200, that it's a detriment to people, that even if they can get to the fields, to the equestrian rings, I mean, that is obviously scares the horses and people, it keeps people from using the equestrian rings that otherwise might do so, not because they can't get to them, but simply because of the noise of so many automobiles. So those were some of the issues that were brought to us. Why are we doing anything about this?
Can I understand a little bit more clearly? What is the problem with the horses? What creates the issue?
Well, one of the issues is, there's I would say 3 issues. Okay, in order to get to the area where where people can park a horse trailer, it's really hard to get to use the rings unless you get there with a trailer and leave your horse off.
So the roped off area.
So the roped off area. So if people are if it's a crowded day, several games going on, sometimes people park in the middle of the non-equestrian parking area, but hampering getting a large trailer in there.
Yeah, you couldn't pass, so.
Okay, so let me finish. And so that's one issue. And another issue is that even with the roped off area for the equestrian area, someone said that this weekend, Kathy Fury said that she was there with someone else, and they had a very large horse trailer, and they had to park it outside of the roped off area because they simply couldn't make a U-turn with it. It's too large. That's the second problem. The third equestrian-related problem is that when there was a lot of cars, a lot of door slamming, a lot of kids going in and out of the cars, that it's simply a more than a nuisance to the riders. Horses don't like loud noises. It's impeding the use of the ring, even if there wasn't a problem with the trailers turning around. So there's sort of three equestrian-related problems that they saw there. So, and the additional problem is that the usage of the fields has been increasing in the last couple of years. It's a new sport, flag football, that didn't used to exist. So even though we wondered with demographic changes in the communities, are there fewer children or fewer adults or whatever using the fields? And it seems like in the last few years, at least according to the numbers we had, that usage of the fields is actually up. And so consequently, there are more parking issues. So that's really the four problems. It's like, why are we addressing this problem at all? So that's the problem. And so what was your question now, Joe?
Well, the first one that you said was the cars parking in the middle, which, yeah, I could see that. It's pretty wide. So just, if that's the problem, why don't we just kind of push the cars in closer so you can't park in the middle? I mean, if that's one of the problems.
Okay, but then you're losing, we're already really crowded. Then we're losing more parking spaces.
Yeah, well, they can't park there, though. I mean, they shouldn't be parking like that.
Well, I understand that, but people do what they have to do when they want to park.
Okay, well, it was just, I was just reacting to one of the problems that you identified.
That's been one of the issues, is that we don't have, there's no lines in any fashion. Obviously, it's a gravel area, it's hard to do that, but even the cars parked on the west side of the road coming in from 113, if you read the conservation restriction from Greenbelt, the cars should actually not be parking on the grass area to the west side of the road. That was if you read the agreement carefully. So those, if you look at that picture, those cars should not be parking. They would be on the side next to the DPW building. So that's a minor issue, but lots of things came out of this.
Well, yes and no. I mean, one of the solutions I had in my head, at least, was to push those cars in further, which I guess is not a solution if they're not supposed to be there to begin with.
Right, and I can tell you that the equestrian people would not be happy with that, because that's one of the areas that they use for when there's an event. They use that area as a grassy area because it's relatively flat. They use that as a warm-up area, and they sort of don't want more encroachment of vehicles there.
I notice on this picture there's cars that are parked in the DPW area. Was that discussed to somehow more formalize that as a space that could be used? No, it was not. Okay. Is there? Do you have more to go, or?
Yeah, well, I was just saying, sort of delineating the problem, and I'll give you what the solutions that we came up with. Okay, so one of the solutions put forth by Park and Rec was to extend the area of that's segregated now for equestrian parking only, to extend that further west, and by extending it further west, they gain a few more parking spots for non-equestrian parking, and at the end of that to sort of make a curve that would go around the riding rings and then go in and then enter into the
Isn't that going on the grass, though, that I thought we can't go on the grass?
That's one of the issues. Okay, so yes. So I brought that, I mentioned that this evening to Tom Flaherty, and he said he had spoken with Greenbelt, and because one of the conservation restrictions is that there can be no more, you can't put parking lots and you can't put roads in, but he said that they had a verbal that was, that Greenbelt wouldn't put a negative on that. That was one thing they said.
I think in the conservation restriction, there is a reservation for the town to add more roadways if it's necessary.
It's a little unclear if you read the thing. But the point was that, Angus, do you remember what that was exactly?
I think, you know, at the end of the day, it would be Greenbelt's jurisdiction of whether to allow it or not, but the, one of the factors the committee took into account is the option one, the park and rec option, clearly would require a vote of Greenbelt. And while I understand the conversation that was represented, I did speak with Dave Rimmer, the Director of Land Stewardship, and they have not actually seen a depiction. So they haven't reviewed anything in terms of any submittal. The concept two, anything on the Dunn property is clearly outside the CR, and the goal, part of the committee's goal, was to minimize, if not avoid altogether, the Greenbelt jurisdiction, just to give the town some ability to address the parking issue. And one of the factors that the committee took into account is they felt that and I should say it was a 3-0-1 vote with one abstention. So
we did not vote. We did not vote for this proposal.
Right.
So we're just giving you all the background. Okay.
But the option two was seen as a longer-term strategy because it produces more parking than concept one, and it puts it in a location that's very accessible to the soccer fields.
So the second proposal, which the committee did vote in favor of, 301, basically, if you can picture the outfield of the baseball field to the east of the entrance road, well, so you would take a left, and there is a gravel road that goes down behind the outfield and follows around the outfield down towards a stone wall that delineates the property from the Dunn property. Well, by moving that gravel road some number of feet back from the outfield wall, that would all be on town-controlled land, would not be subject to any conservation restriction from Greenbelt, and provides a completely new parking area. The automobiles would be away from the equestrian area. We wouldn't close the other parking lot. We're going to need both, but it would provide a lot less traffic on the top of Pipestave, because we pictured most people, if they were going to go to the field, the lower fields where the soccer fields, lacrosse fields are, it would be easier to park down there rather than having to trudge up the hill on the interim. So it would, and we could create a whole bunch of new spaces. The idea would be it would be separated with fencing from the outfield, so there wouldn't be any danger of people interfering with the game or automobiles, just for safety reasons. And it would be landscaped down right below the present stone wall at the very west side of the Dunn property. and with the potential for putting a fitness area in it or something even
Wait a minute.
to that effect.
Do that one more time, though. So I know what the plan is for the Dunn property. So how does this?
So this, if you go down, it would be like the closest area of the Dunn property, right on the stone wall, basically on the, it would be, I'm trying to think if it's a left field or right field. I'm getting this, it would be.
For the trails, is that what you're saying? Their proposed trails? What purpose would this parking serve for any potential Dunn development?
It's not related to, it could use this is for alleviating pipe stay parking issues.
So none, which is good.
It could, conceivable, but it's at the very far end of the Dunn property. So it's someone coming up from Chase Street. It would not be viable from that situation. No. So that's what the committee thought. This served more purposes, and so that's where we left it. And there were a couple of housekeeping issues related to the committee too, that we wanted to add an additional person, but from an additional representative from the Mill Pond Committee, and to make the town manager an ex officio member of the, non-voting member of the committee.
So who's on it now? Board of Selectmen, Parks and Rec, Riding and Driving. Who else?
DPW.
Gary and Angus. Okay. Currently. Yep. Okay.
Anything I forgot, Angus, or no?
No,
just that we want, just now the process of what we do. Yeah.
Right, and I think you said this, but just so it's clear, because I think it was a little while ago, but the committee's direction is to submit this to CPC for this fall as a separate proposal from the Park and Rec. So, and I think the committee would look to the Board of Selectmen to essentially bless that direction. So I think that's what's before you, in addition to the committee composition changes that the chairman referred to.
So were there other, were these the only two concepts discussed?
I had some ideas, and which nobody liked.
No, there were other concepts put on the table for the committee.
Like for example, Joe, maybe you and I talked about it, like along the roadway, angle parking, things like that, and the area. For example, people talked about the recycling area, perhaps moving that, or in that whole neighborhood of where the recycling area is, there are drainage issues from wetlands. There is a culvert there that takes drainage from down towards, that goes under the existing entrance road, and it was a stump disposal area, so it's very bad.
Yeah, you don't want to go in there.
No, in terms of sinking and whatever. It's not a good area to build things. That's what we were told.
Okay. Do you know, and I don't even know what you guys discussed, but did you determine what the total parking capacity, what was needed in terms of a total?
What was needed,
More, but like how much?
More, but that's a very good question, and the answer is we did not. The thinking was that because of the new site it can be bigger, it can be smaller. We were hoping to add perhaps as many as up to 100 new spots in the new area.
Okay, so because that's kind of what I was thinking, like what total capacity is needed and what's the current capacity, so we could get to a number of
the photograph, the aerial photograph has where it's very crowded is I believe 210 vehicles.
There's 210 cars parked here?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the number? I think it was something like that.
I don't recall.
But So we'd like to have a buffer of more than that, and obviously we don't want 210 on the top, we want at least 50 of them down below, but probably more.
So is this design that's on the Dunn property, so this road, couple of questions, and let me just ask them all together. So is this like a one-way where you go in, park, and go out the other end?
Well, the new road we would not use the existing gravel road because it's too close to the, we wanted to get it away from the outfield, and also we wanted it 100% in town land, not conservation restriction land. So for that reason, we can make it wide enough for entrance and exit on the same new gravel road.
Yeah, so like when you go into the lot, do you go in one end and out the other? Or
We didn't decide that.
one entrance and exit?
I would say one entrance and exit at the same.
And this road that you said has to be reconfigured, or?
It has to be, if, we're waiting on a new delineation of where the conservation restriction actually sits. We got some preliminary information from Greenbelt that kind of surprised us. We always thought that the border was essentially the outfield and the existing gravel road, and it turns out that, at least at the moment, they think that it's more north of that. So that's why we're waiting on a better site delineation.
If I could elaborate. So the delineation of the municipal use area, the plan of record is the CR, and the exhibit, I believe, Exhibit C to the CR, and that is the plan of record. We learned in the course of the committee's work that the town GIS does not currently, if you turn on the CR data layer, does not currently have a CR for Mill Pond and Pipestave, which was surprising, just an oversight apparently. So I had reached out to Merrimack Valley as our GIS vendor to see about creating one, and we agreed, well, Greenbelt probably already has one, let's get theirs so we're all using the same one. So this past Friday we got the shapefile from Greenbelt, and it appears to be way off, as much as 30 to 40 feet off from the CR. So it's a GIS data layer. It appears not to have been done with tremendous amount of
precision.
So what's been agreed...
But 30 to 40 feet is
yeah,
way off.
It's pretty way off. So what's been agreed with Greenbelt and Merrimack Valley and the committee is that we're going to set up, and everyone's very amenable to this. Everyone wants the right answer. Everyone wants a shapefile.
What is it?
Yeah, so there's going to be a site meeting in September with their GIS person, with Merrimack Valley's. They've got a field GPS unit, and so basically the objective is to create a shapefile that is as close to accurate as possible, so to assist in everybody's planning purposes.
So we found a lot of things that we didn't expect to find.
Yes.
As is always the case.
So Mill Pond wanting to be on this committee.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, we just felt that we didn't know at the time where we were going to put if we had settled on the first choice of extending the existing equestrian lot, then that would have affected Mill Pond. So we just felt even now, they're a very close neighbor, and we just felt it was a good communication thing. We don't have to do it.
Yeah, no, I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, but
I'm just asking
everybody
questions.
was agreeable that more input was okay.
Right. Well, I mean, Mill Pond versus just like a member at large. I mean, whatever.
One thing, just for context, as you know, the appointment of the committee was a limited duration committee, and after its 2 meetings and bring recommendations to the Board of Selectmen on the parking, but also to the Mill Pond Committee on some issues to do with the management plan. I think the committee felt they basically completed their charge. They were not ready to recommend being dissolved because depending on how it plays out, both tonight and potentially at town meeting, there may be need for continued work. But I think they felt they'd kind of passed the baton. And, you know, part of the intent is not to have a committee that's overlapping either with Mill Pond or Parks and Rec or Conservation Commission or this board. So
I'm confused.
They left the meeting today without scheduling a follow-up meeting because I think they feel they've passed the baton and it's really in this
Back to
board's-
us.
Yeah, it's the Board of Selectmen's authority of how to go forward.
So they, basically, Joe, I thought the charge was they make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and then we decide
they're
whether
done.
we want to move forward with it.
Right.
And I would recommend moving forward with the recommendation of the special committee.
So we don't need to change the committee makeup if they're not going to be around?
If they're not going to be around, no. I mean, we could deal with that later, yeah.
Okay. Well, no, that's what I'm thought of. I heard.
It's such a, we can ignore that part of it, yes.
Okay.
I would recommend going forward simply because if the committee does meet again, I think, you know, Mill Pond, the management plan is the Pipe Stave and Mill Pond management plan. And so I think if anyone has a voting seat at the table as a non-resident, I do not feel it ought to be me. So I would support the changes proposed. If they don't end up meeting again, it will be moot, but so be it. Wouldn't be the first time.
So related to that, I would make a motion to make the two changes to the committee makeup, the town manager an ex officio member, and a member of the Mill Pond Committee be the fifth member.
Second discussion. So, but in reality, it might be one meeting and that's it.
That's possible, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't see the reason for it, but I'll vote for it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I would also make a motion that the Board of Selectmen give their approval to going ahead with a presentation to the CPC related to the second proposal of creating a new, I got to get my directions correct, eastbound road towards, from the access road down towards the stone wall at the west side of the Dunn property and with the possibility to create a new parking area for Pipe Stave in that area.
Second discussion. So, as I have previously said, this was not my first or second choice personally. I mean, you gave a lot of good reasons. I still am not really sure. I mean, I don't know what the alternative would be. I'm still really not sure about it. And there'll be another vote to put it on a warrant anyway. So to not stop the process, I'll vote for it.
Okay.
It's going to go to CPC. It'll come back to us to be put on a warrant. So.
Okay.
You vote. Aye.
Aye.
I'm just calling out this.
Okay.
I moved from negative to neutral.
Okay. Initially, it seemed like there's be so many different places where it could go, and that there was always a problem with the most obvious ones.
Right. So when I said I moved, just to clarify, when I said I moved from negative to neutral, fully in favor and supportive of that we need more parking at Pipe Stave. I'm talking about specifically location of concept number 2.
Okay. Okay. continued review of board staff communication protocols.
Okay. So I guess this was me. I know we talked about this a couple of meetings ago, and I think you brought up, or I think Archie brought up the definition of what's, and I forgot the words you used, of what's, I'll say viable, but that was not the words that you used, of what should be communicated out immediately or not. So I guess I was under the impression, and we kind of talked around a lot. One example that was used was a Verizon rate increase, which is, that's a pretty low priority in terms of communication. And like I said, Archie brought up the point of it's kind of what's important to one person is not necessarily important to somebody else, and vice versa. So, and there were some items that came in. One was a confidential correspondence from town council that I found. I only can look at that folder generally on Saturday because I travel for work and I just can't come here, and I have I just can't come here. So that really kind of precludes me, except for Saturday, to look at that. So, or to look at the correspondence. So I thought we should re-discuss it. That's why I asked to bring it up. So I don't know what you think.
I think it's I agree. Certain things like routine correspondence from the Commonwealth, it's sort of just regular things that we would get, or
Meaning
from utility companies and things like that. Yes, those are not. Those are things that we don't need to see.
when you say routine correspondence from the Commonwealth, and
Well, there are just,
there
that's too vague a thing to say too. Okay.
something like a DLS announcement that they just put out to everybody. That's an example of something that doesn't need to be forwarded.
Right. So where do we go? That's the question.
If I might. So basically, I'm looking to direction from the board. So I think I'm hearing direction.
Right.
And so I think that's all that needs to be said.
Did we vote on the last one, though? If we did, we should re-vote on this one.
I mean, you can
Vote away.
vote away. But I mean, I guess, the three items that were mentioned, the land purchase relates to, school board where no action is needed by this board, but, and was brought to you at the next public meeting. The DHCD letter was brought to you at the next public meeting. The Army Corps of Engineer permit for a dock, frankly, I would not have thought that would be a matter of board interest, but I could be reading that wrong. But I guess, the intent is not to keep information from the board. My primary intent, as we talked about at the last meeting, was to both avoid inviting online deliberation and also to avoid getting responses from board members that call for a response from my office, which, can be disruptive to scheduling. So I think if the,
Let's
if things are forwarded.
Let's see if we can be good citizens
that's where I was
and
going.
not do that.
That's
Okay.
exactly where I was
Okay.
going. Or a response along the lines of, let's put that on the next agenda, great, rather than something that invites an immediate response. So that's.
Which you could get that in reverse, not having it, then you get questioned about that too. I mean, either way, it could chew up some of your time.
I'm not following.
No, but in other words, you're deciding that it's not, that we can deal with it later. That's taking a little bit of your, you got to think about that too. I think that's what you mean, Joe, or?
Partly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's try it. Okay.
We'll forward more. I mean, yeah,
I would say just don't forward stuff like, and I'll use the two examples, Verizon rate increase, DLS calendar of events that we all get anyway.
Okay, well, I guess one question I have is if the board's interest is to stay kind of briefed on issues of current, currently before the board or of stated board interest on kind of a real-time basis. I mean, the pipe stave probably last week, I was personally either sent or received probably between 30 and 40 correspondences on that topic. And some of those I forwarded to the pipe stave committee, some I didn't.
From who was this from?
Oh, this is to do, I mean, there's a lot that's happened with that committee.
There was a lot of stuff going on, Joe.
Yeah, but that's working as part of a committee, though.
Right.
So that's not,
But that's what I'm trying to figure out, is because what's important, what's not. I mean, the DHCD letter, to me, that was
marginal.
Or the Army Corps of Engineer, I was surprised that was listed as like, what's the duration? Is it an hour? Is it a day? Is it 2 days? Before, I mean, at what point have we sat on information too long? Because I need to understand that so I can set aside enough time to deal with that part of my job.
I just think we should get more than probably we kind of concluded as a group last time. And I would tend to do more versus less.
Okay.
I mean, if you reverse that though, you said it's interruptive of your time, but then for me, I mean, I come in, let's say we didn't do it, I come in on a Saturday on the weekend, which, I mean, I have to kind of, whatever, that's my choice, and you did the same thing, but then I've got to go and research it, and there's nobody I can ask, and then I go to work on Monday, and if it's something for a meeting, I'm not really able to do West Newbury work during the day on Monday because I'm at my job that pays me. So until I come in that night, so it kind of creates a reverse kind of issue with me.
Well, but the 3 items that were mentioned, there was none of those that required a single vote of this board.
Yeah, I mean, I would have definitely liked to have gotten Mike's correspondence.
I understand that.
Yeah, the other two are marginal. Okay.
Okay, I think let's see if we get a little, you can be a little less discriminated in what you give out to us, and we'll be more discriminated in what we comment back to you. Appointments.
Is there any?
We did have expression of interest on the Bicentennial Committee from Cindy, I don't want to pronounce her last name.
Yep. I move to appoint Cindy Sater to the Bicentennial Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2019.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes. Minutes dated June 25th and July 23rd. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, move to approve the minutes of June 25th and July 23rd. I'm reading them, though. There was one thing I wanted to look at. Okay, whatever. I can't find it. Okay.
sure, if you had a problem with it,
No, there was
we can
something-
hold off. Okay.
I thought I read something somewhere, Mary, if you see it, I thought on a payroll warrant that I know Glenn doesn't vote on payroll warrants. But I could have been wrong, it could have been somewhere else. But if it happens to be there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It might have been some other minutes.
Okay, looks good. I'll check.
We had a couple of items that the town manager wants to update us on. He spoke with the Bicentennial Committee.
I did meet with the chair last week, and we've been corresponding really fairly regularly through my time here. And I did put together a brief memo. I won't read that into the record, but that's basically a summary of the notes of my meeting. They are going to be present at the board's next meeting on September 4th. They will include materials in the packet. Part of why that was pushed back from anticipated for tonight's meeting is there was a glitch with a meeting posting. Their next meeting is tomorrow evening, and I believe they are well aware of this board's expectations for the update on September 4th.
Thank you.
And an update on meeting with the Department of Revenue and Essex County Retirement.
All right, just
And the auditor.
yeah,
And the auditor.
just in the spirit of keeping you all updated on some of what we're working on, the auditing firm spent 2 days here at the town office last week, did an initial review, and that's kind of an important kickoff and positions us well to get the audit teed up to move, to get things done efficiently in terms of on the calendar. I know that's going to be important, so just want to let you know we did that. We don't have a date scheduled for a follow-up, but we did talk about dates, and they're going to get back to us to confirm their availability. It looks like it will be early October before they can get back to do the next visit. They didn't have any availability before then. But we're trying to, stay on them to make sure that that's all done timely. Department.
Is there, so if they're increasing their cycle time, getting things done quicker, what would they be looking at for a end date?
We're not there yet. I don't know.
It'd be into 19, right? 2019.
In my experience, it's rare to close out an audit before the end of the calendar year.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't preclude that. But we haven't had that conversation.
So probably somewhere. Okay, given you haven't had the conversation, so probably somewhere early in 2019.
That would be my goal.
Okay.
If not before, but I think that's realistic.
How does any of that relate to the closing out of the year in relation to reporting to DOR and certification of free cash, or totally independent things? Or does it help to have one to have done the other, in other words?
They're independent. The free cash can be certified well before the audit is complete. And we do have a meeting with the Department of Revenue tomorrow morning where we're going to be going through the Gateway portal. And that's going to include myself, the assessor, and the finance staff. And I think that's going to be very helpful, in particular, to get me plugged in, because as in my role on finance, I have a number of responsibilities. And while I've done that in another state, I'm not familiar with Gateway and the portal. So that's going to be real helpful. We'll spend, I think, a couple of hours together tomorrow morning. And then Essex County Retirement, I've got a meeting with the director right after Labor Day, just as a kind of a getting to know you meeting. So,
Okay.
And also I would note, it's not on here, but the River Access Committee next meets on September 12th, and I plan to attend their meeting. I have met with representation, and so I'll go to their meeting on September 12th.
Okay. Follow-up meeting assignments, I guess we want to, definitely, item K, we want to find out what last year's budget was, and definitely next meeting, we got to revisit the contract with the town of Salisbury about the pump-out boat. let's see, what,
right now, what I have for my draft items for the September 4th agenda, and this doesn't reflect what took place tonight in the continuation of item K, but I've got the warrant article regarding the landfill monitoring costs. That's a Board of Health correspondence, and they're going to be proposing an amount for additional testing of the monitoring wells around the landfill. So that'll be on for September 4th. We've also got consideration of items for fall town meeting. That would obviously include the Board of Health proposal on recycling costs, as well as anything that comes in from CPC, and anything else that may come in that we're not aware of.
do we anticipate, I would say it's premature, but were any of the items that we thought were pretty much slam dunks from the DLS report recommendations, should we attempt to get any of those in this fall town meeting, or just do several of them in the spring? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know, I dropped that when you two said you weren't interested in it. I mean, I think.
Well, I didn't realize that some of them were, without having, some of them are pretty straightforward, and other ones are quite complicated. Some of them, no, there's no way, but some of them just sort of like, yeah, we should do that, but.
Yeah, I mean, the only negative of that is there has been prior feedback of keep the fall warrant.
That's true.
Right, but.
Emergency kind of thing.
But if the fall warrant's going to have like a very small number of articles, what's the harm of one or two of those? I think we could be busy in the spring. I don't know. Might have to be talking about it at school.
Okay, so
it might not be a bad idea.
maybe we could. Okay, I would say that let's look through those and maybe find two or three that we all agree on, that we could get a very, the easy ones that we could deal with this fall.
I would be amenable to that.
Okay.
Okay.
Any items that Joe, that you need to think we should talk about next time?
So we're on future agenda or
Yes.
follow up or
future agenda.
okay. Probably not next time, because I think Marcia said she was going on vacation, but to kind of keep that process going, I thought I heard her say that she was going to rewrite a draft on that, and I know we all took notes, so we probably all have our notes that we'll compare to her draft.
And I did receive an update from her shortly before 5 today. I haven't even opened the email because I had a 5 o'clock meeting, but
Yeah.
she did provide that draft
Oh, she did. Okay.
at 4:53.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So, okay. We'll have to see what it says. But my reason for bringing it up is let's keep that going,
I agree, yeah.
because it's all fresh in our minds, and however we want to do the next meeting, if it's with her, not with her. I think she kind of sounded like she wanted to come back.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
I think she'd be happy to.
and I think that would be probably good.
I agree.
Maybe we should, maybe what we should do is have a follow-up meeting with her, us, the finance committee, and then just not go through the whole thing, just the actionable items.
Right.
The decisions that we talked about.
Can we, is the finance committee going to be too, well, there aren't that many, articles, so there's no reason the finance committee can't do something before town meeting, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's something that we need to do in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Let's let it go a little bit, but not not into October necessarily.
She did indicate in her email she's leaving for vacation tomorrow until September 10th.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I didn't know when the vacation was. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there, then maybe it will be October. Okay. Okay. That's
Okay.
fine.
I had one small thing. I thought of it this afternoon. There was some issue about the accrued vacation time of the interim town finance director after his leaving the town service. So I don't know if we've resolved that or if we need to work on that or what's happening with that.
I've been actively working on it with the town accountant, and so the question is going to be, there's been a couple of rounds of back and forth, so at this point.
You're handling it at this point.
Yeah, and so the question is going
Joe,
to
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
when the time comes, if we need to get a reserve fund transfer, if it can be paid out of operating budget, that's really good.
Well, do we need to do some, the reason I brought it up now, is it something that's going to need an article?
I don't believe so. I think the amount, I mean, I can talk with you offline and you can advise me if I'm reading it wrong, but I think that the amount would be within what would be suitable for a reserve fund transfer from finance, and I have been keeping the FinCom chair apprised of the issue.
Okay.
Sounds good to me. Set?
No, okay, all set?
I move to adjourn.
Oh, just
Yes.
Question?
one point, is that you might want to give an update on the page tool generator next meeting.
Good.
Okay, I move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.